crafters, it's Ellen again with Crafty Weavers. I'm outside enjoying a little bit of Indiana weather and wanting to do a little bit of tufting. Like I said in the last video, I'm kind of limited on space right now in the house, so I'm kind of doing this outside while the weather is nice. But I thought I would share with you that I got all my supplies that I feel like I need to have together, and I wanted to go over them with you and show you what I chose. And most of my choices are based on reading articles about tufting, looking at what tufting supply stores offer, and watching videos of other people who have been tufting for a number of years and their recommendations of things that they need and things that they don't recommend that you necessarily need versus products of choice, which are better, which are, not so good, or what purpose something is used for versus what something is not. So I figured we would go over a few of those things today just so that you see where I'm starting and with what I'm starting with, and we will go from there. So just give me a second, we'll get all ready and we'll go. All right, crafters. So this is my frame like I had last time. I made this frame. I chose not to purchase one online. Like I said in my first video talking about starting this journey, they do offer them online. They are smaller. I chose to go ahead and make mine, and I made mine quite large. It is 3 feet 8 inches by 4 feet. I made it with 2x4s that I purchased at my local Lowe's, and I had them cut it. I figure I'm going to make a video making a smaller frame so that you guys can see how I made it. Just when you make yours, you just pick what size you want your boards to be, would be the simplest way. But to talk about a couple of features of the frame that I made based on the frames I saw online and the frames that I saw other crafters using, I will show you why I made my frame the way I did. So this is the main work area here. This was where my fabric will be. It'll be pulled taut over this, and to hold it in place is this tack strip right here that's got these little nails in it. The fabric will slip over these little nails. The nails will hold it in place and hold it taut for me as I work on my project. And it is on all 4 sides all the way around so that it holds it nice and taut. Another feature that I added, the frames that you will see online have a feeding arm where you can put your skeins of yarn onto, and these are the pegs that I designed. I made mine for cones mainly. Most of them will have pegs like these. I wanted mine for cones because I found a company through my dad's personal business where I can purchase yarn in bulk, and I have to wind it. It's by the pound, and I have to wind it onto cones. So I will be winding mine onto cones, and I can set my cones on the pegs. And then I put these hook feeders up here. A lot of them will just have J hooks. I found these ones that have these little closures on them, and I thought I'd like those a little bit better because then that way I don't have to worry about the yarn possibly slipping off. But the yarn will feed through this and then come out over where I'm working with my gun over here, and it feeds into my gun, and that helps prevent tangles. So that is the frame that I have. And again, like I said, most of them that you'll see online are bare wood if they're not metal. And I didn't want mine to be bare wood. I just have a thing about not having bare wood. I either like it to be painted or stained. I chose to stain mine because I was afraid that painting it, that paint will rub. And if I'm rubbing fabric against it enough, that maybe it would transfer onto the fabric. And I didn't want that to happen. So I went with stain so that it's soaked into the wood and hopefully would not rub off or affect my projects. So that is my frame. Now we're going to move on to the smaller supplies, working supplies. Give me 1 second to get set up for that. All right, crafters. So these are the small working supplies that I have that I'm going to use to get started. I'm going to go over kind of each of them with you. I know I've got it on the long table. I'm going to move them closer to the screen as I see fit, so that you get a better look at what we are working with. So, you know, don't think just because it's way far on the other end of the table, you're not going to be able to see it, because I'm going to move them around so that you can see better what I'm working with. Now, nothing in this video is a paid advertisement. Everything are things that I selected based on previous use from other products. I do a lot of other crafts. I crochet, I cross stitch, I embroider, I sew, I do all kinds of things. So, anything that I have in here that maybe it can be used with other projects, it's products that I have used otherwise. So don't think because I am choosing X brand that I am promoting that X brand. Nothing is a promotion in this video. I may mention where I purchase things. There again, not meant as a promotion, just as an example of where I found them or where they are available in my area that you might be able to look in your area if you're having trouble finding something. So like I said, please don't think I'm plugging for a certain company or a certain online service. It's just where I have found things and the things that I have. Okay, so let's get into what we got going here. So first is my gun that I purchased. Like I said in my first video, this is a 2-in-1. It's a cut pile and a loop pile gun. This is the needle here. Yarn feeds through here, comes out here. It is fairly heavy. I imagine after a long day of tufting, I'm going to fill it, but that's okay because I wanted the 2-in-1 versus the cut pile only or the loop pile only, because they are not cheap guns, and I wanted to be able to do both. I figure if I get into this more, this becomes a big thing for me. I may consider buying individual guns that do each of those, but at this point, I wanted a 2-in-1 to save a little bit of money from having to buy 2 guns. To go along with the gun, there's a few supplies that you need. You need machine oil, sewing machine oil in particular. This is the 3-in-1. It can be used for sewing machines. This I had because like I said, I also sew, so I take care of my sewing machine. So this is something that I had for that. You will regularly, after, or pretty much every time you use the gun, all the parts will have to be oiled, all these pulley, wheels and everything, so that it flows smoothly and it runs smoothly. In maintenance with the gun, we'll also need brushes to clean out all the little crevices and get the little yarn fuzz that builds up. Now, I have seen like your standard sewing machine brushes that people have used. I've seen people using paint brushes in their videos, various things like that. I wanted something soft and sturdy that wasn't too expensive, plus that gave me different sizes so that I could get into the tighter little places versus just bigger areas. So I actually went with makeup brushes because they're nice and soft, so I'm not worried the bristles will damage anything, but they're also very firm because, well, they're makeup brushes and they have to be firm to be able to apply the makeup. So that is what I chose. This was a set that I found at one of my local discount stores. I got all of these brushes for one price, because then that way, like I said, I have different sizes to get into the tight little corners versus just the big general areas. The machine came with a few tools, Allen wrenches and whatnot, to be able to make adjustments to change it from cut pile to loop pile. And these were the Allen wrenches that came with it. Of course, if you have other Allen wrenches that are the same size, you can use those, but these are the ones that came with mine. You will probably get wrenches with yours. I would be shocked if you didn't. It also... Sorry about that. Motorcycles going by, being outside on a nice day, we're going to have motorcycles. It also came with a needle threader. This is the one that came with it. I looked into getting others because I know that needle threaders tend to break fairly easily. And one of the YouTubers that makes videos that talks about her tufting, she was making her own needle threader. So I thought, why can't I make my own? And so I made my own. I don't know if you can see the wires. I just kind of based it on what size I thought would work for me. This is just twine that I had from another project. This is jewelry wire that I'm using. And I just stuck it together with some nice, pretty, shiny duct tape that I had. So these, and I also put these tails on here, these loops, because I'm thinking maybe I'm going to loop them onto my gun. So then that way it's right there ready whenever I need it. And I don't have to go looking for one, and, you know, easily at hand. All right, so I think that's all the things that are really revolve around the gun itself directly, until you get into the actual working. That's just basically the mechanics of it. All right, now on to the tufting aspect of this, of what you need to actually make your project. So here I have my fabrics. I went over these in my previous video. This is just the standard backing fabric that would not, for me, I'm not going to use this on floors. I'm going to use this for like wall hangings, things like that. I may not stick with this. I may actually go with like a lightweight felt. I don't know. I haven't got that far yet. This was in a fabric bundle that I purchased from letstuft.com, where I purchased my gun. And I wanted to get some fabric to get started, and I wanted to kind of see what was out there. So that was why I included this in my fabric bundle. But there again, you know, you will find the fabrics and the products that work best for you, for what you're making. Like I said, getting started, this is where I'm starting with to give it a try. So that's one backing fabric. This is the other backing fabric that I purchased. This is a felt back with non-skid on it. I purchased this to be able to do rugs with. As you can see, the little non-skid dots there. It is a thinner felt. There again came in my fabric bundle that I purchased to get started with. So I'm thinking I'm going to probably stick with something like this. I like the weight, so it won't make the rugs really super heavy. I like the non-skid on it so that the rugs don't slide around on your floors, that kind of thing. So we'll see how this goes. I may end up with a different brand, but for now, this is what I'm working with. This is the tufting fabric. This is what my rugs will be sewn into. It is a very, hopefully you can kind of see, it's a very tight, it's a tighter weave, but also a loose weave at the same time. It's very small. It looks a lot like cross-stitch fabric. It has these little yellow lines on it to help guide so that you can get them straight into the frame. Make sure your fabric's straight in the frame. Plus, it's also guidelines and a kind of a grid for you for your sewing to help with your sewing. So this is tufting fabric itself. So those are the fabrics that I am starting with. I may end up going with other things. I watched a video from another YouTuber. I cannot remember her name. If I remember her name, I may include a link below for her page, where she did a comparison between tufting cloth, monk's cloth, and burlap. And it was really surprising how well some fabrics turned out in comparison to other fabrics. And I found her video very educational when looking into fabrics. But to get started, I chose this tufting fabric. All right, now on to yarn. Now, there are lots of brands, lots of types, lots of weight of yarn out there. Everything that I am seeing and understanding about yarn choices is that you want a worsted weight or a size 4 yarn. It's kind of middle of the road. It's the most commonly found yarn out there. But and the most common used for making rugs is acrylic, 100% wool, or 100% cotton. To get started, I am using what I have in my stash already from my other crafting projects, which the majority of it is 100% acrylic and 100% cotton. So once I get, like I said, I have placed an order for bulk. What I ordered in bulk was cotton and acrylic as well. I will eventually work into wool. I'm trying to find an affordable place where I can buy bulk wool yarn as well. So when I figured that out, then I'll start getting into wool. But it's personal preference. There is also a determination on what holds up, what you're doing with it. If you're doing something with it where it's going to have a lot of traffic and a lot of wear and tear, you might want more like the acrylic or the wool yarn. If it's not going to have so much, but you want to be very eco-friendly, then your wool yarn and your 100% cotton may be the choice. So you have to decide for yourself what approach you want to take. These are ones that, like I said, I had in my stash. Here again, not plugging any specific brand, just brands that I have used and I like. These are the skeins that you would normally see at like your Walmart, your Hobby Lobby, your Joann's, your craft stores. Holding them upside down so you can't read the labels. This is a Walmart brand. This is Red Heart, Super Saver. These are very affordable yarns, that kind of thing. Larger projects, this is where bulk is going to come in. But this is how you will normally buy it. This is Mainstay. This is the same brand as this. Is actually this size of skein that I wound onto a cone. So like I said earlier, it'll feed off of the cone versus off of these skeins. You're not going to want to leave these in this skein form when you're working with them because they tangle really easily, and this has to feed rather rapidly. So this is going to need to have a lot of give so that it will be able to feed smoothly. Otherwise, you're going to be starting and stopping and undoing tangles a lot. So you're going to want to get some kind of winder, which we'll talk about the winder I have. There are a lot of different styles out there on the market, but I will show you the one I have. So that is acrylic yarn. These are the cotton yarns, 100% cotton yarns that I have in my stash. Here again, not specifically plugging any brand. These are also available at your Walmarts, Joann's, Hobby Lobbies, Michael's, general craft stores. As you can tell, they're very small amounts. So if you're wanting to primarily use cotton, you're going to need to find a supplier that either supplies it on cones or in bulk that you can wind yourself. Because these are, the location where I got these was a local craft store, these brunettes, and they go for $2.79, and that is only, let's see how many yards is on one of these. This only has 71 yards. So I do not know how far that'll get me into a project. Like I said, these were ones I had in my stash that I'm using until my bulk supply shows up. But there's cotton yarns. Now, onto winders. This is the winder that I own. This is a cone winder. So this is what winds onto there. These cones just slide on here. You feed it through. It's got arms that come off so that it feeds smoothly, but it winds it onto the cone, and then I'm able to use my cones to feed them off that way. There are other winders. You can get mechanical ones. This is an electric one. You can get hand ones that are hand cranked, and that'll wind them into cakes, which is like it's about this big around. They're about this thick. They do have a big hole through the middle. So you can either middle feed off of them. If you have them on post, you're not going to want to middle feed off of your cakes, or on the outer edge, or an edge feed. So your cakes are done with either an electrical or a hand winder that is different from this. They basically have a post that comes up and it winds the yarn. These are cones that I have to wind yarn onto with my yarn winder. You can get them, like these came from, this plastic one came with my winder. These cardboard ones I purchased, or I was given from letstuft.com when I placed my order as a free bonus. I have other cardboard ones on order from another company. You can find them on Amazon, but you need to make sure you have cones that work. If you have an electric winder or even a handheld winder that does cones, you're going to want to make sure that they work with your winder, because some cones may be too big, too heavy, and weight your winder down. Another option that I have seen, where when you're winding cakes, people will use paper towel or toilet paper tube to put up through the center of their cakes so that it holds its shape and it doesn't cave in on itself. That is also an option. That also makes it easier to put it on your pegs. So that's yarn and winding yarn. Now we're on to finishing the projects and actually prepping to sew your project. You're going, oh, I didn't put it out here. I have an overhead projector. I knew I forgot something. I have an overhead projector that I will use connected to my laptop or my tablet that will project images onto my fabric in my frame, and then I'll take permanent markers and trace those images and write in there what color in this section, what color in this section, that kind of thing, so that I have an image on it. If you can draw, feel free to hand draw it. You don't have to use projected images. I'm not a drawer, and I want to do some kind of very specific things that have very specific looks to them. So I will be using my projector a lot. Or if you're a very creative person, which I feel like I'm a creative person, but my brain doesn't work in freestyle, where you don't even have to draw anything on there. You can just freestyle it for whatever works for you. But this is personal preference. So you'll want permanent markers to be able, and like I said, if you're wanting very specific, you'll want an overhead projector. I purchased my overhead projector off of Amazon. It was like $150, $175. There's varying price ranges. They can get very expensive from there. But I also use mine for classes to help project things for classes, things like that. So I get a lot of use out of my projector. So you purchase what works best for you. So it's, you know, there again, find what works best for you. I don't know how else to say that. I have a ruler and a yardstick that I, crafter. I have these things around. I thought I would have them to help keep things straight. I can help draw straight lines. So like if I want something to be square and I want it to be so many inches, that kind of thing. You know what you do with rulers and yardsticks. But those are metal ones. I really like the metal ones because otherwise my kids play with them and they break them, and then I have to buy new wooden ones. And I'm tired of buying wood ones, so I bought metal ones. Scissors. This is just your standard fabric scissor. These are snip scissors. Nothing super fancy about them. I have on order, they have not arrived yet, a pair of duckbill scissors. They look a lot like these, but down here on the end, they have this curved out metal piece that's part of the scissor. It is used for embroidery. It is a very common thing used in embroidery. It helps keep the scissors away from the fabric so that when you're going like this, it's not right up against the fabric, so you're less likely to accidentally snip something that you shouldn't. Scissors are very important. You want a good pair of scissors, good sharp pair of scissors that are only used for your crafting projects. As many crafters know, you use them on paper, they go dull faster, they don't cut as well, and they can actually damage your fabrics as you cut. But you're going to be using scissors, of course, just in the process of making, cutting fabric, that kind of thing. But you're also going to be using them for trimming and smoothing out your work, and also sculpting your work so that you have depending on your design, you may want like little divots between your color changes, or you might want little height difference between your color changes, and these will help with making that happen. So you'll want a couple of good pairs of scissors that are nice and sharp. This here is twill tape. This is a nice big roll that I got in my fabric bundle from letstuft.com. This is, I believe, 1.25" twill tape. I chose black because I'm going to be putting it on the back. Most of what I'm planning on making are rugs and wall hangings, so they're going to be rubbing against surfaces, and I didn't want them to show dirt. There are other colors out there in twill tape. Most common are white, natural, and black. Use whatever you want to use. If you want to use a colored one to match your project, use a colored one to match your project. If you don't care, use whatever color you want. Personal preference. Like I said, I chose black so it wouldn't show dirt. Personal preference. All right. So once you have your tufted project done, before you take it out of the frame, to keep your stitches from pulling out, you have to glue the back. You basically put a nice thick layer of glue on the back. Not too thick, but a nice layer of glue on the back. It will dry and lock your stitches in so that they don't pull out. So there are different brands out in the market. I'm going to show you what I had access to, what I have seen online as recommendations for your gluing. One inexpensive, commonly used is just Elmer's school glue or all-purpose glue, or all glue all, I think is another brand that they use. It is a good use. I've seen a lot of people say they don't use these on heavy traffic rugs. They mainly will use them for like wall hangings, things like that, because it is just a glue, a general use glue. If you're making something that has high traffic, you might want something a little bit more durable. But this is just Elmer's glue. Then this is carpet glue. This one is what my local Lowe's carries. The other common brands that you will see is Roberts, and I cannot remember the name. AAT, I believe, is the brand. It comes in a big black bucket. You usually buy it by the gallon or multi-gallons, 3-5 gallons. They are more heavy-duty rug glues. This is like what you would use when you're putting a rug in a house. This is a very sturdy glue, hold up, that kind of thing. I chose this Ultra Bond Eco. This is supposed to be a little bit more environmentally friendly, so it has less PPs or PPVs. I cannot remember what that stuff is called. I am sorry. Too much reading, too much research. I can't remember the terms. Basically, the chemicals in it. This is it has less odor. It's supposed to be more eco-friendly, and so that's kind of why I chose it. We'll see how it goes. I probably will, when I'm out and about. We live, we always laugh and say, an hour from everywhere for like big market areas, because we live in a small town. So I'm limited to Walmart, Lowe's, places like that. So next time I'm somewhere where I can go to like a Home Depot where they carry Roberts, I may stop in and buy a gallon of the Roberts and try it and compare the two. If I do that, I will make a video comparing the two and discussing which ones I like and why I like them. But to get started, this is what I went with. And then to apply it, you will need, I forgot a glue. I'm sorry. This is a spray adhesive. This is tack spray. There's several types of brands of spray adhesive on the market. I think I bought this one from Walmart. Most craft stores carry spray adhesives. You'll also find them at hardware stores like Lowe's and Home Depot. You can also get it online from Amazon or other online retailers that carry this kind of stuff. But this is used, a lot of crafters use this when putting the back on, because it helps adhere the back to it. I've seen a couple of different ways people put backs on. When I get to backing, I'm going to try a couple of different techniques, and we'll see which one I like best. But spray glue seems to be a must. Another glue that seems to be a must is hot glue. This is my nifty hot glue gun. This one is totally cool because it's rechargeable and wireless, so I don't have to fight a cord on this one. Highly recommend a wireless one. You do not have to have a wireless one. It just is really nice because then you're not trying to work around a cord. But, standard hot glue sticks. A lot of users will hot glue the twill tape edging on, or hot glue the edges of their rugs down to give it a nice sturdy holding edge that won't have a lot of give to it. So hot glue is also another glue must. All right, to apply your glues, this was what I was starting to say before I saw the spray glue and forgot I had talked about this. To apply your Elmer's glue and your carpet glue, you'll need putty knives, spatulas, whatever you want to call them. These yellow ones were a free gift from letstuft.com when I placed my order. These are ones that I just bought from Walmart, $1, $1.50 kind of thing. So they're not super expensive. You can use metal ones. I would recommend plastic or metal, because if you've ever worked with glue, you got to be able to get it off. These should clean up pretty easily, being that they're plastic. So, so you'll need something to spread with. I've even seen users just wear gloves. I don't have any rubber gloves out here, but I do have a big box of rubber gloves. I've seen people for like really big projects just putting glue in their hand and just rubbing it on with their hand. Anytime you work with these kinds of things, you're going to want to wear gloves just to protect your skin, so that if you don't have an allergic reaction because of exposure to the chemicals in the glue. So I recommend wearing gloves. So once we've tufted our project, sorry, I'm going to edit out traffic. We've tufted our project, we've glued it, it's dried, we've got our back on it, it's down to near the very end, but we need to clean it up. You're going to want to have some kind of, I laugh and say shaver, because that's really what you're doing. You're shaving your rug, and you're either going to make it all the same height. Now this is cut pile. Loop pile, you're not going to want to shave, because if you shave it, you're going to cause those loops to be now cut pile. So for cut pile, you're going to want some kind of trimmer. This is one designed for rugs. Comes with a nifty little stand. It'll go in here, so then that way I can slide this across, and it'll give me a nice even height, and all of my stuff will be the same height. This is just one that I found on Amazon. Tufting supply companies offer versions of them. This is a lower end, I'm not going to say a lower end. This is kind of your standard. If you're doing bigger projects and lots of projects, I've seen a lot of users with sheep shearers as an option, and you can also get a stand for your sheep shearers. Those are big, heavy duty. So I am not to the point to have big, heavy duty sheep shearers yet. It may be something that I get to down the road. So at this point, this is what I have. But as you can imagine, when you shave something, you have little dusts and particles and that kind of thing. So the very last thing that you're going to want to do to get your rug ready is vacuum it. This is my handheld vacuum that I have. I'm going to start with this and see how this goes. If this doesn't work so well, then we'll move up to the floor vacuum and just use the hand nozzles on it. But I wanted to have an example of a vacuum. So this is just my handheld vacuum that I'm starting with. So here again, I got a rechargeable one. So, I mean, you can have one with a cord, you can have a rechargeable one. I just chose my rechargeable one because, less cords. So that is my stuff to get going on what we have for getting started. These are all the things, like I said, watching videos of what other people use, talk about, recommend. This is what I have put together to get me started. Like I said, everybody's different. Everybody chooses something different. Everybody has a different like. Choose what works best for you. It's your project, not mine. And what works for me may not work for you. So thank you for joining me. Glad to have you along on this journey. We'll keep going. I'm not sure what the next video will be. I don't know if I'm going to venture into actually putting something into the frame and starting tufting with my next video, or if I'm going to make another frame so that you guys can see how I made my frame. So if you choose to make your frame, then you're ready to be able to make your frame yourself. But we'll go from there, and I hope to see you next time. Glad you joined me, and have fun crafting.